Welcome, everybody, to our special monthly early call. Everybody's coming in here. Hello, everybody. All right. So, for those of you who know me and don't know me, I'm Andrew Daniel, and this is our Awaken group call. Who here is this their first time? Raise your hand. All right. So, you two, if you would like to introduce yourselves, your name, where you're from, and how you found this group and me. Go for it.
Hello, Daniel. I'm Elizabeth. I'm from Mexico City, and Mao told me about your book and about this session. So thank you very much for this.
Welcome. Have you read the book or the Foundations course?
Not yet.
Okay.
I,
Sorry,
I just invited her yesterday,
yesterday.
Andrew. I told her about the book. I told her about these calls. I invited her, and she's going to ask the book.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much
Thank you.
for joining, and thank you for inviting her. We appreciate that.
Thanks.
All right, go for it, Jack.
Is it? Okay, it's me. Hello. I can't see myself. I've turned my own view off, so I think it's fine. Hello, I'm from England, near London. I have known about your book for a while, Andrew. I think I randomly was linked on Amazon of all places. Um, and it just kind of grabbed my attention somehow. I think it's got a pretty good cover.
Thank you.
And it really, so I instantly ordered it. And yes, I've actually read the first part of it. So I think I've got halfway through. Um, but yeah, it's speaking to me a lot. And I've been meaning to come to this because I'm in England. I think I
Mm.
remember suggesting to you, like, I couldn't come at 1 a.m. for us in England. But yeah, so thanks so much for having this earlier time. It's a massive help. And yeah, really glad to be here and to meet some of you guys.
It's good to have you. Thanks for joining. What are you getting from the book so far? You're finishing part one. What are some
The
of the things that have stood out for you?
um the brazen honesty of it. Um the storytelling, that's the idea that you're kind of stuck in this kind of constant storytelling. Is definitely the case for me. I quite like having a narrative to describe my life and to describe everything that's going on. And yeah, it's an interesting one. It could help motivate you to do things, but it comes with all this baggage. And more often than not, ends in the story shattering to pieces. So yeah, just kind of the attachment to various outcomes, and yeah, a lot of it, all of it actually, in the first part, has been, yeah, and just the idea that um, life kind of needs to be embraced. It's not enough to keep yourself safe. Um,
It sounds
yeah,
like the avoidance of life chapter.
exactly. Yeah, that
Yes.
one.
So
Yeah.
what about that resonates with you?
Um, yeah, I guess because I think I'm a similar age to you, I'm 35. I think I got to the point where I'm like, okay, so cool. This is what's happened so far. What next? Sort of approaching middle age. But
Yes, I don't consider 35 middle age.
no, it's not, but it's like it's enough. I think I've got enough sort of had enough sort of mini crises that I'm
Sure.
just kind of
Yeah.
okay, cool. Well, There's
Now what?
there's
Yeah.
like another half to my roughly more than half, obviously, but hopefully. But yeah, just kind of think, well, how do I knit things together and how do I approach things next? And I definitely, and also what's resonated with me is what you've said somewhere is that it's very difficult to do this by oneself, just by yourself, if not impossible. So um, seeking out support, seeking out structures. Everyone's going through similar things, so it's kind of it helps so much to be able to share stories and yeah, to help each other. So and to be part of a culture of yeah, self empowerment and yeah.
Great.
So
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for joining. We look forward to hearing how part two helps.
yeah,
And yeah, it's just the beginning. Some people are annoyed when I say that. Other people uh, are relieved. Um, and it's a wonderful, wonderful adventure. So thank you for joining us.
thank you. Could I ask? Should I mute my audio by default?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah. And if anybody ever just wants to talk, you just unmute yourselves and talk. Um, we're all adults here, and you don't have to wait for me to call on you. Just speak up if anything's going on for you. All right. So, how many of you saw either Hannah's or Darun's video in the group? Yeah, pretty remarkable. He's not here because he's exploring the US. He's from Australia. And so he's adventuring around. But it was the first time we got to meet. He'll probably be on the next call. So we'll talk more about it then. But we're just coming off of a 4-day private intensive where we did a lot of fun stuff, slackline. Oh, speaking of which, we got some events coming up. So I'll share about these more at the end. But these are our first and only events of the year, doing cinesomatic stuff. And the cinesomatic stuff is one aspect of this work. So in Awaken to Your True Self, there's all sorts of things in it. And in one chapter, we talk about embodiment, and that's the cinesomatic part. However, everything in the book uh, is a part of and comes up in the healing work. And so we have three main doorways into, you could call it transformation, you could call it healing, you could call it awakening. Um, it's really hard to it's really hard to have these without each other. Um, to have awakening without healing can be very dangerous. Right? You have this spiritual awakening, or even a cultural awakening. So let's just talk about that. There's two sort of flavors of awakening that I've seen and gone through myself. Is the cultural awakening, and that's sort of like the movie The Matrix. Elaine just watched that. She had a pretty powerful experience. um, First time watching The Matrix just a few months ago. But that's really about our cultural matrix. The cultural conditionings are familial conditionings, the stuff in the government, in the healthcare systems, in society, in stereotypes, in religions, even not without the spiritual aspect, but just the way that in the past few hundred years things are not how we've been told they are. Our food is in trouble. Our health is in trouble. Our politics, our personal freedoms. Um, these views and, let's say, worldviews and limiting beliefs that we grow up in from our family or culture, society, it is a bit like this matrix. There is an awakening process once you realize, oh my gosh, what the government and the media has been telling me my whole life isn't necessarily the ultimate truth. Oh my gosh, how the world is, from what I've learned from my family growing up, isn't necessarily how the world works. Oh, maybe not all poor people are like that. Maybe not all rich people are like that. Maybe not all people in that race or that gender is like that. Oh, maybe the work and the school, education systems, the science systems, um, even the religions, maybe they're not exactly uh, what we grew up uh, being taught and believed. So it has a bit of a matrix, of a veil. There is, for many reasons beyond the scope of this conversation, a sort of a veil over uh, society, and there's an awakening that happens where you realize these things. Wait a minute. Okay, maybe that substance isn't good for me, and maybe that substance they told me isn't good for me actually is going to uh, help me. And so there's an awakening process there, and then and that process itself, you can go through fear and rage and anger and resentment, and um, that's a whole journey in itself, waking up out of that cultural slumber. And then there's the spiritual awakening where you realize, oh, spiritually, physically, in my own humanity, in myself, in my beingness, this isn't what it seems. And through either of these processes, um, if you don't have healing, either you're not going to be able to move forward, or as you do, things are going to start getting really hard. And whatever this healing comes from, shadow material, trauma, generational trauma, your own experiences in life and what's happened to you, rejections, failures, things like this. Without healing, it's it's going to be very dangerous to have the enlightenment of, all right, well, now I have this knowledge, and in order to em practically embody that is going to require me to transform, to transmute. And this is certain aspects of alchemy, right? Turning lead into gold, where we turn things that were once curses or pain or fear or the shadow material. We, through the healing process, we take something that once limited us and caused us great pain and transmute it into something that now could be a gift and empower us and other people. So on this journey, we have both the healing aspect and the functionality aspect. And this is one of the things that makes this work in totality different than other things, is that you can, for example, I give this example is, all right, you can heal your money wounds, right? You can do all this work around money and still not know how to make $1 million or pay your bills, right? So you can heal all of this stuff, but the embodiment of something that is highly functional doesn't necessarily come with that. And so you have a lot of healing work or spiritual awakening work where people are still sick, people are still unhealthy, people are still in poverty and in scarcity, people are still having issues with intimacy in their relationships. People are still not able to self-actualize, even though they have these massive realizations and awakenings. And that was me. It's like, wait a minute, I know I know the secrets. Like I'm in on it. How come I literally can't get anything to work in my life? I was homeless twice. And it was after knowing a lot of this stuff. And then on the other side, you can become very functional, right? You see plenty of people out there that are very functional out in life, but maybe not in all areas. Maybe they're very functional in business, right? They're making millions of dollars, but their relationships suffer, or their health suffers, or they're spiritually deprived and dissociated. And they have all this healing to do. They haven't resolved their money issues, their uh, traumas. And so that's like personal development, coaching, self-help, all of those kind of things. So this is a process in which we work on both. And the three ways that we work on that are through the movement, which is cinesomatics. That's the tool we use. Symbolism. We work with ancient imagery, pictures, tarot, very, very powerful symbols to help us do what the movement does. And then dreams. The dream work is very powerful. It's not something that we're doing that much of yet, but in the future, there will be more dream work. And each one of these is a doorway. You can think of what is the ultimate, not the ultimate, but one of the ultimate things is to know thyself, right? To know thyself. This is one of the fundamental aims of the ancient mystery schools, to know thyself. And each one of these three doorways are ways to do that in the dreams. When we dream, or we're being dreamed, a lot of the data and information and the symbols in our dreams are more real than when we're awake. When we're awake, right, we're in this conscious, if we haven't woken up out of the matrix, the stuff that's happening in our daily life can very much be the cons and the lies and the self-deception and the stories, as Jack was talking about, the stories that we're addicted to help us try to manage this stuff. But a lot of these things aren't real. And so the dream work helps us see the truth. It's not distorted by the same distortions of our conscious mind. So we're actually closer to reality in the dream state, if you know how to use that. And the same thing with the symbolism. When you start looking at these symbols, you're seeing yourself. In the dreams, when we start doing dream analysis, you are seeing yourself. And in cinesomatics, when we're doing the movement, you are seeing yourself in your body through the video. So we have three almost shamanic unconscious entry points into discovering the truth. The fuck was that? Did you guys hear that? Yeah. Sorry. I don't know what on earth that was. Something coming out of the dream state, huh? Um, let me just turn this thing off real quick. I think that was my air conditioner. I have to have two air conditioners for this recording studio here. So anyway, where was I? So all of these are ways to see ourselves from the unconscious. Symbols, right? The symbolism, this comes from your subconscious. The body stores the unconscious, the subconscious information, and then the dreams. So these are the, I guess, tools or paths that we use the most of in this work. Now, throughout all of that, there's different energetics, there's different principles, and things that we work on. But that's a bit of an overview for the new folks and some of you returning people that haven't heard me really talk about it. In the grand scheme of, let's say, the the work and curriculum I'll be offering over the years, um, cinesomatics is just one of those doors. There's these other ways that we use to get in. And Awaken to Your True Self, that book, is a uh, a primer, essentially. It really provides a good foundation and a good base. So when you start doing that work, you are well equipped that when you start looking at your dreams or these symbols or the movement in your body, you know what the shadow is. You know about the narcissism. You know about victim, taking responsibility, making choice, um, avoidance, right? Jack talked about. So that's my monologue for the day. What are you guys hearing? Anything interesting in here? Any realizations? Any questions about all of these ways that we can know ourselves in order to wake up, to heal, become more functional, and actualize ourselves and be of great service to the world? Just unmute yourself and start talking.
The alchemy process you talked about, I remember that from your book, but I just hadn't heard it in a while. And that is so beautiful to, take these things that are hurting us and the pain and turn them into gifts. I think that is, I just feel so grateful to know this. And so I was just glad to hear you say that again. Hear that.
What are some of the things that you're transmuting through this work?
Like I'm working through so much. Um, just getting more comfortable in my body. Circling, like I do circles 30 minutes a day, and that gives me confidence in myself. It almost feels like it's untwisting all the knots that I've been in.
So I'm going to pause you here. So Elaine is a private client of mine, so I'm going to be giving her a little feedback here because she's a private client of mine that we don't normally do on these calls. But she's just going through something, so I'm going to help her here. Um, Notice when you started sharing, you shrugged it off. So you're undergoing a absolute miraculous transformation in your life, and there's a part of you and an environment around you that makes it difficult for you to really own the beauty of this. You know, your parents couldn't own this beauty and live with an open heart like you're starting to do. So see if you can share without trying to dim yourself, because I can feel that there's this gratitude. I mean, you're starting to have a gratitude for life, and that's not something that's ran in your family. So see if you can let yourself feel this, and it's going to feel scary, but see if you can let yourself let that shine out without being afraid that you'll be attacked for it.
I mean, it feels wonderful. It's just so much, I guess, that I
Mm. You're finding self-love.
I'm grateful to be here.
Yeah. And you don't mean just this call anymore. Yeah. Yeah, something worth living for. So this is what true hope looks like, everybody. This is not the hope that certain political people want to hook you on. This is not the hope that's peddled in mainstream self-help books. You know, Elaine's shown up every day. She's making the choices. She's on calls with me, hearing how dysfunctional, how distorted, how she's abandoned herself. She's facing these shadow aspects. How through this, uh, there's been harm in her family, and her family suffered because of the things that she's done and that were done to her. And she's on a journey of reconciling that and healing that and facing it. And when we first started working, she was massively depressed. She couldn't go through a whole day without having to sleep through the depression, taking naps. The circles she's been talking about have energized her. She wasn't able to feel. She couldn't cry. She wasn't laughing. After I think our second or third call, she wrote me and said, "Oh my God, this is the first time in months I laughed with my husband." So see her now after 8 months compared to that. It's a miracle. And it was her choice. And from that choice, she's taken action. Despite the odds, despite everyone around her, all the family lineage. It's amazing. And so, Elaine, you're turning all of that in to these gifts that you had no idea would be so inspiring to the people in this group.
And I guess, kind of the way the circles are energizing and um I'm I'm caught. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm just like that force is just keeping me that I'm still, I couldn't believe yesterday. I've always been afraid of flying. Um I've flown once when I was 9 years old, and so I started to book a flight, and I couldn't actually the complete the booking. I just started crying, and I then I started judging myself, like, oh, why are you crying? But I just let myself cry. And my parents had a lot of, and my dad still to this day, he watches plane crashes, and he just, I have so much fear. And so just that alone, is another step for me to broaden myself. And it is really like where I live, it's very far from everything. So, for me not to be able to go on a plane because I'm stuck in this box, it really limits me. Um, so I feel like every day I'm starting to, you know, go into things that turning these things into gifts that were very painful. It's so incredible.
Yeah, your familial mythology is based on not dying. And you have an opportunity to transmute that into starting to live. Because there's a very different, very, as we talked about on our call, it's very different avoiding death through safety versus living life. Both say they're talking about living, but if you've ever seen somebody that was terrified of dying and the bubble that they put themselves in, the prison they put themselves in, um, you know, it's not worth living in there. Yeah. Yeah. Safety equals death. Now there's a sense of safety in ourselves, right? There's a certain sense you want to be able to move through the world and feel safe, right? It doesn't mean that you go through the world and you feel unsafe and everything's dangerous. But they can very much get confused, and that's probably what happened to your parents. Sometime in the lineage, something horrific happened, um, and everything became about staying safe, keeping everything away. So as Jack was talking about, the avoidance of life. And so for you, getting nails done at a salon and getting on a plane for you is starting to live the heroic life. Now, to maybe someone else out in the world that sounds ridiculous. It doesn't matter. What matters is for you and your history and your lineage. Those are going to be massive breakthroughs because it's not the things, it's what they represent. Right? So you getting on the plane is you coming out here to do the slack line. And you'll prob eh, it's hard to say, but there's a good chance that just what you have to heal and get through to get here is worth it enough besides whatever happens on the slack line. Just like what happened for you before you even got to the nail salon for making that choice. Yeah. But it also feels um, like you have to leave your parents behind.
And a little bit my family in a way, because they're sort of stuck here. And you know
Yeah.
but there's the other part of me that's really ready to do something like that.
Yeah. So you're transmuting that, and that's going to become an inspiration for them. Hopefully, it's up to them what they're going to do with it. It's none of your business, right? You have to heal yourself. You have to shine. You have to shine your light. Some people are going to hate your light. They're going to have to put sunglasses on and look away, right? Vampires, right? Or they just don't know. Or it's like, have you ever watched a double feature in a movie theater? I'm not saying that anybody's stayed for a second movie. Um, And then you come outside of the theaters in the middle of the day after 5 hours, and you're like, "Ugh." Right? This is what's happening. It's these people and yourself are not used to the light. And so it can be scary. It can be intimidating. Because think about it. You're going towards life. You're going towards freedom. You're going to come out and meet some amazing people. You're going to start being able to travel around the world. I mean, there's an entire world, and you've avoided it your whole life. And it's not to say that you're forced to go out now. You could still stay there and be wonderful. The point is being at choice and not letting the fear run you. And so you're choosing yourself, and that's where you're feeling this love and gratitude. And some people around you are going to think you're selfish. You know, that's them. You're not casting anybody out. You're not judging anybody. You're not preventing anybody else from doing it themselves. You're not pushing people away. You're not trying to be an inspiration either. You guys get the sense? Elaine's not like, hey, everybody, I'm here to inspire all of you, right? That's what you see on Instagram, right? You see just fucking all these people doing this stuff. Now I'm exaggerating it, but I see some nods and smiles and laughs because on some level we know the con. We know what this is. I mean, I've done it myself. I get it. So that's where the narcissism comes in. You know, people say, Andrew, what's the difference between actually being an inspiration and trying to inspire people? This.
That's one of the big things that keeps me going, amongst, my family and the dynamics of that is, it just always comes in my head, just keep going, that I can be an inspiration. I have three girls that, they will just have to find it for themselves, but they'll have someone to look at. And that's really wonderful. Another wonderful aspect that I have, is hope for them through this work. And all of the trauma that I've passed on to them, I feel if they wanted to, they could fix it and stop it. So I'm really, really grateful. I was just living in a hellhole, and there's so much more.
What are you guys seeing? Any thoughts? Do you have anything they'd like to share from what you're hearing from Elaine or I? Go ahead.
Hey, um, thank you, Elaine, for sharing. Um, yeah, I wonder how common this is amongst this group or in society at large, the way in which we keep ourselves small. Um, yeah, that I guess safety in your case. Yeah, I guess it is with mine as well. There's something which some voice or some aspects of myself, at least, that's just kept me in a certain safe chamber. And this is coming from someone who doesn't necessarily appear like that in everyday life. For instance, recently being at a festival and just being kind of there, playing music and people are like really enjoying it, and I still feel like the my so much of myself I've kept under this kind of canvas, and yeah, so I guess what I'm saying is that I really relate to what you're saying, and I'm and exactly what Andrew says. This is hope. This is the ability to express yourself naturally and authentically is absolutely central to a healed society, I think. This is why I'm interested in individual work, because I don't think necessarily we get that even in sort of spaces where we're we're trying to create change. We may talk all of this talk, like in political spaces, for instance. We can do all these things. We can make the society anew, and it's like, okay, except we as individuals uh, are struggling, and yeah, I think this is like the group dynamic will shift when the individual shifts. That needs to be nurtured and encouraged. Um, yeah, it's a hopeful vision as well if the individual is considered to be inherently good or inherently disposed to be good, that the self-expression will naturally bring that out, and and that's the sort of the energy from which the overall good can feed off.
Well, you see,
Uh,
there's many people that think that the individual is inherently bad and
yeah,
dangerous. It must be controlled. You can have two very different societies.
yeah,
Yeah, great point. It requires a lot more trust. It's not about anarchy. That's not going to work, right? Anyone else?
I
I
wanted to
share.
share, Elaine. Oops, is there an echo? No, okay, it went away. Elaine, you are just more and more luminous every time I see you. Like you're like Benjamin buttoning. And it's so beautiful and so inspiring for me to witness, and so helpful for my own journey with this. This whole group has been so helpful, just to be with other people that kind of understand what we're all talking about and going through. I felt pretty isolated. And so, yeah, so thank you for sharing and for showing up so courageously. It's really amazing to see.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
What is she showing you, Hannah? What is she showing that's possible for you?
But I can have that too.
Have what?
Peace, hope. That I can go through this without punishing myself for all the ways in which I'm not what I thought I was.
It's so funny. You're finding out you're not who you thought you were. What a relief. It's who you really are is so much bigger. But where you came from, who you thought you were was so much bigger.
A really good character.
Yeah, this image that you thought you were was the thing to lift you up, but now it's the thing that's holding you back. and exchanging the fake apple treat for the real apple when you've just spent 30 years perfecting that formula for that flavor. It can be terrifying, especially when no one around you understands what's happening.
Mhm. Yeah, and feeling like I had finally like just gotten it right kind of before I came to this work. I'm like, great, I've just crafted it just so perfect. It's just what I wanted it to be, except it's
None of
not.
it worked. Yeah.
None of it works.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We're holding on to the crumbs in front of a buffet because all we've known was those crumbs, and they're precious to us. Yeah, but at some time, you let them go and you hop on a plane, walk on a slack line, or end up in London or Paris or Thailand.
Yeah, another big mythology within my family that I've been kind of unraveling the last couple weeks is there's just been a really powerful message of we have it so much better than so many, and we should be so grateful. And to to question that or to like start to tear it apart is just like almost insulting to what we do have. And I think that on both sides of my family, there's like this energy of,
It's heresy. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think starting with my grandparents, like kind of um, the first generation to be able to start to have fun, even though there was still a lot of dysfunction and things that were not healthy, but just starting to be able to like breathe the air is like, how could we, it's so much better than our parents. But then there's almost this like this frantic energy to it, even though it's like, and I feel it especially in my grandmother of like, it's still like, there's a lot of fucked up shit going on, but it's so much better than she saw growing up that she's just like trying to grasp at the threads of what is good. Um, and I feel like energetically that's something I've picked up on and also related to the my exhaustion piece that I've been working with.
Yeah, it's almost like if you were to want something more, it invalidates it. Like the wanting more somehow also, on top of invalidating all that, uh, negates the gratitude.
Mhm.
Or you could, it's interesting. All right, well, think about it this way. Oh, what if that gratitude is designed to invalidate the desire for something more?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
Yeah, the other
Like,
direction.
yeah, like I hear like my grandma speaking sometimes like, well, we'll never go to Europe, but we don't need to because we have all we need, blah, blah, blah. Like
We
this kind
love
of,
each other. Yeah.
yeah, this might never happen, but who needs that anyway?
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's always fun to kind of reverse them because so many of us think in this one direction, right? Like, oh, the love's designed to keep the pain out. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Well, what if the pain's designed to keep the love out? What if all your self-punishment is designed to keep the love out?
I saw this meme that said something like, you're not healing so that you can handle more pain. You're healing so that you can receive more love. And I was like, wow, that's cool. That's a nice way to look at this. 'Cause sometimes I think that like I'm learning all these lessons and I'm doing all this healing work so that I'll be stronger, so that I can take on more challenge and so that I can like know how to handle the pain that the world will throw at me. And I'm like, wow, it's a nice way to think of like healing so that I have the capacity to enjoy and appreciate more beauty, more love, more gifts, things like this. And this has been such a huge year of transmutation for me because I really decided at the beginning of the year that I was gonna like commit to discovering my true self or just really connecting, trying to find who I really am underneath layers of stories and people pleasing and fear. And the main things that I've been transmuting, especially in the last 2 months have been so crazy potent for me. And I've been transmuting a lot of low self-worth, like really low self-esteem, uh, and wounds and pain around community and friendships and like my place in friend groups and in people groups. And I've written for years in my journals that I want to create containers and events that bring people together around community and healing and growth. And that's like what I've written is like, oh, I think that this is part of my life path, or this is what I want to create with my energy and time. And I just wouldn't do it. I was totally living like I was like creating this fantasy, of this like in my journals, I would just talk about how like someday I'm gonna do this. Someday I'm gonna have this beautiful community of friends and someday I'll be creating these beautiful events. But having that fantasy was kind of keeping me from actually doing the work in my real life. And I kept on holding on to all these stories that like I wasn't ready to put on these events, or I didn't have the right space, or I needed to learn more lessons. I needed to do more of my own healing work before I was ready. And I was also using the fantasy as a way to avoid looking at the facts of my life, which is like, I have never put on an event. I'm not currently working towards putting on an event. I don't have a good circle of friends. I don't have any friends. Like there was a time in my life over the last few years where I was like, didn't really have any friends. And so and that was so difficult for me, but I was also using my fantasy of what my life could be to avoid the reality of the pain of what my current situation was.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited because I'm organizing an event. I'm actually organizing 2 events this month, and I'm hosting a retreat I'm hosting a workshop. And this book has it's been, this whole year has led up to me being able to do this, but this book has been profound in helping me get rid of the stories, like realize the stories that I was running. These sucky stories that organizing this type of event would be too difficult or too stressful, too overwhelming. I also decided like I need to stop fixing myself. I need to say like, I kept on saying like, oh, I need to be X, Y, and Z before I can do this, or I need to be more healed, or I'm not knowledgeable enough, or whatever. And so I was just like, just stop. Stop.
Just stop.
telling myself all these reasons why I shouldn't do the thing that I've been dreaming about for so many years. And also these stories that like the people that I've surrounded myself by that have kind of like allowed, yeah, the people that I'm surrounding myself by that are inspiring me and giving me support to do these things are people that I really admire and respect and that are like leaders in the community. And I had these stories that they were going to be too cool for me, or that they were stuck up, or that they were really yeah, just like super stuck up people. And so that would keep me from like connecting with them. And I also had the stories that I wasn't good enough and that I wasn't cool enough to be part of their group. So I started really embodying, not just like visualizing or imagining, but I actually started embodying belonging and like healthy self-worth and my own value of what I can contribute. And because I've been embodying that, I've been able to connect with like an amazing group of people that have totally helped me get to this place where I'm able to host events and do the things that I've been dreaming of. So it's
Imagine
like,
that, huh?
yeah, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's been really amazing. And I'm so grateful. And excited.
Thank you for sharing that. Um,
Can I ask how you embodied the belonging exactly, or what you did?
Uh, it it started like when I was at this party and I just asked myself, how would I behave if I totally belonged here? Because like I didn't really know anyone at the party. And everyone just seemed so vibrant and inspirational and cool and fun. And so I was like, since I didn't know anyone, I kind of could feel myself like staying in the corners and like just wanting to be quiet and being shy and just feeling like, oh, no one here knows me. I'm just an outcast. I'm an outsider. But then I asked myself, like, how would I act and behave if these were, people that I loved and like people that where I felt really welcome and like I've got a place here. And so I just started like walking around and talking to people as if I knew them already and if as if like I belonged in this space. And so I felt in my body, I just felt a lot more comfortable. I think I definitely started socializing and walking around more rather than just like being alone, sticking myself in a corner. Um, and I was connecting with people easily because I believed I belonged and I felt like I belonged there. And I felt like I wasn't gonna say everyone is gonna like me. Everyone who I connect with is gonna love me, but I just felt deeply that like I can be here. I am providing my energy here and my energy is valuable here.
Thank you.
Mm.
Right. Anybody have any final words before we wrap up? Final shares, final reflections, final any last words?
I feel like the circles have really done that for me as well, Neva. Is it Neva or Neva?
It's Neva.
Neva, okay. Um, because as I've moved differently in my body and become more comfortable, then as I move into different spaces, I'm more comfortable. And it's nobody's changed but me, but then the whole world's changed, you know? So it's been really good. So I just had the same feeling when the circles have just opened me up to a new world and Yeah, so that's great. I'm so happy for you.
Mm. Thank you so much. Yeah. Doing it, like, I think that this really started, one thing that I started working with at the beginning of the year was just alone in my living room, trying to embody or practicing embodying different feelings. And for me, a big one was receiving. Like, what does it feel like to receive and not feel guilty about it and not feel ashamed about it? What does that feel like in my body? What does that look like in my body? And so just practicing doing stuff like that in my living room at the beginning of the year was like, has totally transferred over into how I show up in like social and group settings or anywhere else. Totally powerful.
Just a
It's great.
choice. Elizabeth, anything you'd like to share?
Oh, thank you. Now I'm in a little crisis, but I expected I can't wait to read the book. So I hope the next session could say anything else. But thank you so much for sharing and for the time. Thank you all.
Thank you. Next time we're going to be doing it later in the day. Are you going to be able to make that? Yeah. Okay, great. And having some bourbon over there. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much, Jack and Elizabeth. Thank you for joining. Wonderful to meet you. Thanks for sharing. Trevor, Mauricio, Elaine, Neva, Hannah, David. Do we got Holly back here hiding anywhere? Nope, don't see her. All right. That's everybody. Did I miss anybody? No. All right. Great, guys. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Jack. Bye.
Cheers.